As the memorial for April grows here in her garden, today her mother returned and sat on the same bench where she comes so often. But today, after the arrest of a man accused of killing her daughter, she told us a much different story.
It's been overwhelming. You just can't believe it, and you're thinking, is this actually true? And you're pinching yourself.
A moment Janet Tinsley has waited for decades.
Just hearing that, they finally found him, it's pretty much justice for her.
A man behind bars charged with killing her little girl, 8-year-old April Marie Tinsley, in 1988. An agonizing 30 years passed by. Ups and downs in the case, new leads, but never an arrest.
I was hoping, one day it will come.
That day came Sunday when police knocked on her door.
They said they got him. And pretty much that's all I needed to hear is that they got him. It was like you got that chill feel, goes from the top of your head down to your toes, and it's like you want to believe it, then you can't believe it, and it's like it's been so long, but it's been good.
Janet grateful to the detectives who never gave up, and a community that never stopped caring.
Everybody that's involved, you want to, give your thanks to them.
Gifts for April in her garden still growing.
Here you go. There you go, baby.
They ain't got to do what they're doing, but the family pretty much appreciates it.
While Janet was sharing her emotional story, there was another face in the crowd, full of tears. The mother of the young girl who was with April the day she disappeared.
Little did we know we were going to get a knock on the door a couple hours later, stating that April was missing.
A little girl who left a big hole in a lot of hearts.
Her big brown eyes all lit up the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
When you seen her coming down, she'd skip. She wouldn't walk, she'd skip.
The arrest, the beginning of closure.
The pain that everybody has been gone through now can be lifted because April now can rest in peace.
But one question remains.
Why? That's really the only thing I got to say to him. I said, I just want to know why, and see if he can come up with a good answer.
Would any answer be enough?
I would like him to explain himself, but right now I'll probably just take whatever I can get.
Janet still talks to her little girl at her grave and sitting for hours in her garden. She says she hasn't told April about the arrest yet, but a tiny visitor to the garden today.
Usually there's like a white butterfly will fly around.
Might have been telling us
April's angel.
That April already knows. Janet tells us she isn't sure if she'll be at all of the court proceedings for John Miller, but she told us his arrest is at least a start in seeking justice for April. In Fort Wayne, Alyssa Ivanson, News Channel 15. 3 men are behind bars this morning, caught in a Fort Wayne police undercover sting operation. It's a targeted effort to combat sex trafficking, and I got an exclusive look as detectives were uncovering the hidden predators.
We just had a third guy that wants to come. Okay, we just got a text. All right, he's at the corner. He's making the turn westbound.
This day,
Probably 55 years old, heading your way.
a month in the making.
We have to get everything arranged. We have to arrange the hotel. We have to make sure we have enough personnel to adequately take care of this issue.
It's called a John sting. John is a generic term for the person, usually a man, paying for illegal sex from a prostitute. The operation was at a motel in town. First, detectives put up a fake ad that looks real on a website with a lot of other posts soliciting sex. In less than 3 hours, there were interactions with 4 different Johns.
And when Backpage was up and running, we had people coming so fast that we really had trouble keeping up with that. Now that that's down and we're working from other sites, I think it's just a little bit slower because of that.
So 4 in a couple hours is slow to you?
Yes, it is, unfortunately.
The first bite was 54-year-old Johnny Ray Kreider.
Coming to the door now, opening and going in.
He walked into the motel and not long after was escorted back out by officers, getting an unexpected ride in a police car.
We got one on the line, says he's ready to go right now.
There was already a list of Johns interested in coming, and not long after Kreider's arrest, Clarence Jr. Crawford II was also brought out of the motel in handcuffs.
We have an undercover detective inside. They will have maybe previously talked about what he wants and how much she wants him to pay for it. Once he arrives, there will be some kind of confirmation of that. And once we get that confirmation, then we would take him into custody and place him under arrest.
Looks like he's getting ready to text.
By the end of the 7-hour sting, 12 different men talked to or texted the detectives. Only 3 showed up. All 3 now face a single patronizing a prostitute charge, a Class A misdemeanor.
I think it would be very helpful to make this a harsher punishment, maybe a level 6 felony, with some caveats that they have to go through counseling after being arrested or convicted of this kind of charge. That would be very helpful, because again, many times I think people who have sex addiction don't really know that they have that. They just keep going with that desire.
Stings like this are one of the many ways police are fighting back against sex trafficking.
We're working on this issue and we're trying to address it, and we're trying to curb that demand by doing these types of operations. To know that there's a risk out there, the fear of arrest and the fear of being discovered of doing this, that's even greater with these types of operations.
After we left, police also arrested 47-year-old Brian McClintock. While there were only 3 arrests in this sting, police hope it will have an even further reaching effect and decrease activity from other Johns out of fear of getting caught. Yeah, thank you, Rod. We are at the corner of US 30 and 5 in Whitley County, and you can see that there are cars out here going on US 30. We've seen a lot of semis this morning. We've seen a lot of early morning commuters. We have seen a lot of private plow trucks out as well, and the plows are out on the roads. They are a little choppy in spots though, and it is certainly still slow going. You'll want to take some extra time, but I want to show you kind of about how much snow we've had so far here in Whitley County. Here in the gas station at the Marathon in the corner, this is completely untouched snow, and if I draw a line here, you can see my finger is gone underneath all of that snow. So we've definitely had about 2 inches at least, I would say, already here in Whitley County. It is still coming down, and we're expected to get about 2 to 4 inches. So again, road conditions here, they're passable, but you certainly want to be careful and take your time, have some extra time going into work, or if that's where you're headed today. But if you can stay home, I would recommend doing that. Again, the plows have been out, but we were going no faster than 35, 40 tops on US 30, so definitely want to keep that in mind. Now, to our north, they're seeing some even heavier snow and larger snow totals up there, so we want to send it up to News Channel 15's Chris Darby for a look at conditions up around the Angola area. Chris.
Of the 85 veterans, 6 were World War II veterans. This is the story of the World War II Memorial through the eyes of Jack.
Welcome to your memorial, sir.
To Jack Holmes.
Oh, this is something, huh?
The World War II Memorial
Oh, and it's beautiful.
is a trip back in time.
I was on the ship close to all these places. Tinian, right. That's where we docked, and I went in for supplies.
Okay.
And that's where they was unloading the atomic bomb for Japan.
Were you there when they flew out?
Yeah, we pulled out, and then I was 300 miles from the Indianapolis when it sunk.
Strangers stop for a history lesson that they can't read in a book.
I've been around long. I was on the USS Conaway. But we had good equipment, and then it wasn't up to date, nothing like today.
When the war broke out, Jack was still 17.
I was going to enlist in the Air Force. My mother wouldn't sign for me. And then I come back, and a year later, then I enlisted in the Navy.
Jack served from 1944 to 1946 on the USS Passaconaway.
I was all over.
Now seeing those places of war etched in stone.
It brings back memories.
Brings back memories, doesn't it?
Big time.
Yep.
Can't imagine.
Letting the fountain fill the silence. Taking moments to pause. And reflect.
I got all these places I've been, you know.
At 94 years young, around the memorial built in his honor, this World War II veteran feels the thanks of a country, one handshake at a time.
This has probably been the most interesting day of my life. I tell you, I've never shook so many hands in my life. I've never thought that people would appreciate what I've done in my life. It's fantastic, fantastic, really is. Yeah. It's amazing.
In Washington, D.C.
So much, so much.
Alyssa Ivanson, News Channel 15. When you think of Fort Wayne and the military, the 122nd Fighter Wing likely comes to mind. And you've probably heard the A-10s roaring overhead. Our next story tonight takes us to the base and up close and personal with the Black Snakes. As the sun rises on the 122nd Fighter Wing, the A-10 fighter jets start to wake up, slithering down the tarmac. Because in Fort Wayne, black snakes fly. Behind a giant garage door on the Air National Guard base, mechanics keep the A-10s mission ready.
For every pilot, there's probably 10 other troops who are supporting us getting this airplane off the ground.
Lieutenant Colonel Brian Jandorf started flying the A-10s 15 years ago.
We're flying a single-seat fighter jet, whether it be here in Indiana or in Afghanistan, and for just about all of us, it's a dream come true since childhood.
Jandorf grew up in Wisconsin and remembers the first time he laid eyes on what would be his future.
I was in downtown Appleton, Wisconsin for the Flag Day Parade, and 2 A-10s came over what I thought at the time was right at rooftop level. And this was in the early 80s, so when the rules were a little bit different, so it may have been right at rooftop level.
He joined the Air Force right out of high school, then went to flight school, and in 2003 took his first flight in an A-10.
It was a realization of my dream as a kid that I always wanted to be a fighter pilot, that I got to fly the airplane that I wanted to fly as a kid.
The A-10s, known as the Warthogs, are at 11 bases across the country. One here in Fort Wayne at the 122nd Fighter Wing. And the A-10s here are known as the Black Snakes.
Just goes back to it being kind of indigenous to this part of Indiana.
The jets were designed in 1975 for close air support.
Supporting the Army, Marine Corps soldiers on the ground as they advance against the enemy.
With a 30mm Gatling gun on the front.
Designed to be used against vehicles.
And under the wings,
there's 11 pylons. In 2018, we're mostly carrying GPS-guided and laser-guided bombs.
On any given morning, this is what you'll see at the 122nd Fighter Wing, the squadron of A-10s getting ready for daily flight drills. That way, they're ready for any federal or state mission at a moment's notice.
The Air Force gives us a big laundry list of all the mission sets and skills that we need to be good at in order to deploy and support the combatant commander and ultimately the soldier or Marine on the ground.
Just like it would be on a deployment, the crew chiefs do checks and rechecks, getting the plane ready for the pilot. Once he's suited up, it's more safety and weapons checks before it's time for flight.
Most of the time in Fort Wayne, when you see us flying around, you'll see 2 of us. And if you don't see us very close together, we're probably a mile and a half apart from each other.
The base brings a big benefit to the city, with more than 1,000 people filling the campus every drill weekend.
For the people of Fort Wayne, it's their neighbors, their friends, their colleagues that are out here doing this mission. We are just regular people or ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
For us civilians, we just have to look up.
Hopefully, and I always think this, that there's some kid on the ground that sees that and says, I want to do that, and hopefully their path brings them out here to the 122nd Fighter Wing.
To feel the force.
We're always looking for, the next black snake that wants an adventure.
Of the Black Snakes. The A-10s have been at the 122nd since 2010.